Fantastic. Hi.
Hi,
Thank you for having us. I loved the different episodes that we watched, and it's beautiful. It's rich with different teachings for all ages. And in particular, I was drawn to the fact, like in the first episode, you really go into a lot of information of table tennis, how to play, even when it appeared in the Olympics, and then you zoomed out from that into volunteer, what it means to be a volunteer and everything around that. So I was curious to know, how do you guys choose the topics, and how do you make such a seamless transition from something that is so on face value, so unrelated to each other, like ping pong and being a volunteer?
Sure. I mean, I think that the way, when we sort of write the episodes, the way we think about the topic is a little bit about what could Doug learn, and then really what is his big question about that thing, right? So with table tennis, we're kind of playing with ball games, and we sort of realized, like, Doug can plug in and learn all about how the game is played, and as you said, like, that it was played at the Olympics and that sort of thing. But of course, he doesn't know, why do you play games? And so that gives us sort of the spirit to then go out and create an episode, and he discovers you play games because it's fun. So I think when we think about topics, it's a little bit about what is a rich thing for him to learn about, and then we want to make sure that that topic has a question for him to ask that we can then kind of answer via an adventure that he could go on. So obviously, for volunteering, he wonders, how can he volunteer? And of course, he discovers through the course of the episode that he can volunteer by bringing everybody together. And that's a really nice, he doesn't have to do one specific big task that only an adult could do. He can bring the adults in, and the adults are the ones that fix it up. So it really starts from what's an interesting thing for him to learn, to how do we take that and give it enough oomph to sort of lead us onto an adventure.
And I think something really special about that is that, we have these themes that seem, on first glance, like, well, I mean, we know what table tennis is, and well, we know what the beach is. And so, Doug, he plugs in to find out information. And then he goes out on these adventures, and he finds out something that there's no way he could have found out just by downloading information alone. And on top of it, so does Emma, that Emma too gets to have this experiential knowledge by going out and experiencing something. So it's kind of fun to think about themes that, like, we can give these things to Doug as he's trying to explore and wonder what something is. But then also Emma, along with her best friend, has an experience, and she gets to find out kind of these deeper meanings of things as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so now after a day of having watched all the episodes, the one thing that really stuck to me is how children are learning from the parents, but parents are also learning from the children. Specifically, where Jim, you mentioned the iPad, not the iPad, the app of the hearts that came out, and then Doug taught them about the actual hugs. I know it's your baby, but is there any specific instance that really has stayed with you of these episodes that you have done so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's a little bit of a cheat, but it's our pilot episode. I just think it sort of set the tone for that, because what that is Doug going out into the world, learning something and bringing it back to share with the robots, to not necessarily change their lives, but to augment it, So for me, in that pilot episode where, his parents want to show Doug how much they love him and want to connect with him, and they create this app, and Doug, meanwhile, learns how to hug from Emma and what that means, and he brings that back to his parents. I think that just sort of encapsulates our show really nicely. It doesn't mean that the robots aren't going to make each other apps anymore, but they've also learned a new way to show how much they care.
Yeah, I think that there's something really special about, I feel like I can say this because my mom made a comment once, but like parenting now, like we're here to guide and teach our kids, but there are times where we really get to learn from our kids too. I remember I was having a moment with my daughter, and my mom looked at me and she goes, in our time, we just didn't even know we could talk to kids that way. And so there's something really special about being able to bring that into our relationships with the kids and the parents in our show. I love in Bots of the Forest, there's this really beautiful moment where Dad and Doug are together, and they're hiking, and they're discovering these new sensations on the hike. But they together get to learn about, when their map fizzles out, these kind of tactile ways of how to get through the forest. but then, you know, again, at the end, they get to embrace their map and still incorporate that, you know, again, in our theme that like, there's room for tech and tactile experience. But I love that they experience and learn this thing together. They have this little journey together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thanks again.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so I know that it's difficult to tell anybody, pick your favorite child, but if you had to pick a character, who would be your favorite?
I mean, for me, it's Emma. I love Emma so much. I love watching Emma. I love drawing Emma. I love pushing Emma's expressions and actions and movements. I love that, to me, Emma is our audience. She symbolizes, you know, the wonder and excitement that our audience might have about getting to hang out with a curious boy robot. So I think just, and she's kind and caring, and, you know, she is a really good friend to Doug as she sort of introduces him to the whole wide world. So in every aspect of Emma, I would have to say she's my fave.
Yeah, and while, as you said, it is hard to pick your favorite of your children. I'm actually very fond of Emma's dad. There was once upon a time I thought I was an actor. I was not, but I love that he's this highly trained thespian, and he brings that sort of flair for the dramatic with him. He was just such a fun character to write and explore in space. You know, but what's fun, he's also just like a really great dad. And he loves his daughter, and he likes to get into silly adventures with her, and he goes along with things. So I don't know, whenever he shows up, it just seems like the screen just sort of lights up a little bit. And I like to watch him go. You know?
He's definitely a personality. I mean, he's not one of those kind of cartoon parents that are just kind of there as a figure. Like he's a true character, which I think most dads are.
Yeah.
You guys had great picks. Thank you so much. It's a beautiful show.
Thank you.